So, yeah, I'm back. Wait, hold on. That's much better. I know I said I wasn't gonna make another Parkour Reborn video, but honestly, the positive feedback I got from the last video just gave me so much more motivation to continue to make videos. I can't thank you all enough for all the positive feedback and support. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. And without further ado, let's get into the video. I made a tier list of all of the moves slash techs in the game, and these are all the gearless ones. I haven't included anything with the grappler or anything like that. So yeah, first up we have jumping. This is one of the main mechanics that you have in pretty much every game, and in Parkour Reborn it's probably the most important, so I'll have it pretty much, yeah, in S tier, because you need to jump to go places. Alongside this, you can hold spacebar to basically direct how high or low you want your jump to be. That just also adds another layer to it being just a good mechanic. Next up, we have wall running. It's a pretty common parkour mechanic across multiple games. I mean, even most parkour games don't have it, but just have it as a nice parkour feature in their games. In Parkour Reborn, you can do it twice, just on two different angles. Unlike the legacy version where you can just do it twice, you just have to angle the character itself. But in Parkour Reborn, I actually like the approach they did with it, being you need two different angles on like the 3D world space. So honestly, I would have it A tier. This is a good mechanic. I'll be ranking these based off of two things. One, how useful they are in terms of just free running, and two, how useful they are in a more speed runny type competitive scene when it comes to the time trials. So mantling, honestly, it's a very good mechanic. I would put it in A just because it's not S tier for me personally, because it's your bare bones mechanic in a parkour game. I mean, you need mantling, but mantle is a pretty good mechanic, although it can bleed some time in time trials, so I'm just gonna have it as A, but it's a very solid and useful mechanic in the game. Next up, we have springboarding. I also like the approach with this mechanic as well, where you have to release all the movement keys, and during a mantle, you get that upwards momentum. Honestly, I'll have it in B, because it's a very good mechanic, as in gaining height. It's not necessarily the fastest way to do so, in my opinion. Next up, we have rolling. This is just S tier, straight up. Rolling is extremely important as a mechanic, and you wouldn't be able to make some of the gaps that you can if not for this mechanic. Next up, we have wall climbing. Now, wall climbing is also a good mechanic. I would generally put it in A, although it's not the fastest. Can get some significant height by fully extending your wall climb and jumping out of it. So yeah, A tier. Next up, we have sliding. Okay, so in my opinion, this mechanic is very underutilized. It works how it should, but I feel like you could find a different way to implement it better. For example, you have chaining, right? And that's at the later stages of gameplay. But you can't really chain with your slide, especially if it's not on a ledge. But I would put this mechanic in B, because I guess if you like running and sliding under those like little arches off the air ventilation systems, then I guess this mechanic is for you. But other than that, I really don't see a use for it other than slide boosting, even though that was nerfed. So this kind of just, actually, I'd have it in C. It's very underutilized. If they could find a way to make sliding a more viable option in terms of chaining, then yeah, but you really don't see yourself sliding unless you're just free running and you want to slide under something, but you could just not do that. And when it comes to speed running, the time trials, this, you just don't slide. I actually do have an idea for how they could implement this to make it more viable for speedrunning, having time trials that require you to slide under something, and giving you a brief moment during a chain to slide under something, and once you slide under something, you keep your chain for another second so that you can get to a nearby ledge. that would be good. But yeah, this would be C. Next, we have drop down. This mechanic is not too bad. It was actually pretty useful for drop down boosting, another form of slide boosting. I'd also just have it at C because you can't really slide boost or drop down boost anymore, so yeah. Next up we have after boost. Now this mechanic is honestly an S. It's the main mechanic that's going to allow you to perform more advanced type of moves, so honestly this would just be S. Next up we have wall climb boost. Now it was kind of nerfed from the old version of the game, which I understand because Parkour Reborn is supposed to be a more grounded version of parkour. Well, not a more grounded version, just a more grounded game in general. And the way they implement it makes it a good option. I would have it at A, yeah. The thing is though, you can't get the same height you do with a fully extended wall climb with a wall climb boost, but this mechanic is very good for speedrunning. Next up we have wall clutching. This mechanic is performed by just using after boost on a wall in midair and just not really doing anything. I think you just hold space. Yeah, this is pretty good for minimizing fall damage if you want to drop down from a high building. And you could combine this with drop down. It doesn't really have a reason to be used in speedrunning. I would just have it at D because you're really not going to use this that often unless you want to save a combo. Next we have wall kicking. Wall kick is actually a very good mechanic, so I would have it at A. You can horizontally direct your current momentum in whatever direction you really want with this move, so yeah, pretty good. Next we have wall bouncing. This is really not that useful, so I would have it at D. It's just a fun little thing to do once you learn it, but it's not viable in really any way, shape, or form. Like, you wouldn't want to do this if you're trying to gain height. I guess if you were between two buildings, you could use it to get to the other one. But yeah, this really isn't that useful. Next we have dragon bounce. I've never actually done this mechanic until like learning how to do it now. And I don't really see a use for it. Maybe like, I don't know, honestly, it doesn't really seem that good of a mechanic, but it's also not that bad because it's technically better than wall bouncing. So next we have chaining. Now I would have this at S tier because it complements the gameplay style of Parkour Reborn. I didn't know this until recently. They actually nerfed chaining, like the initial chaining when you have like minimal momentum in the movement balancing, and why? I just don't understand like what was the point of that. That kind of like further killed off speedrunning time trials along with the Wumpy nerf. I get the Wumpy nerf, right? But chaining, like, are we just trying to make the game realistic now? Like, is Hudzel trying to make the game more realistic? I don't know. But this would be a S tier, but due to the fact that it also hurts speedrunning, I would just have it at like B. Actually, I'll show you a clip of the old chaining, and then I'll show you a clip of my current chaining. Like, it makes some routes just not viable to do, especially the start of Crystal. It's just like painful trying to do the start of Crystal now, and yeah. Again, I don't know why they nerfed the startup of chaining. Like, that actually just doesn't make sense. But, I mean, okay. Like, I would have chaining here, but it's honestly like a B now, because of the fact that the speedrunning aspect of it is like significantly nerfed. I mean, it was perfectly fine how it was, and now it's just like worse. But yeah, I'd have it at B. Next we have flail jump. Why would anyone use this? I don't know. I guess you could make an argument for like, if you don't have the time to long jump off a ledge by timing it, then you could just flail jump, but like, this is just a worse long jump. So I guess it's F. Yeah, I would put it at F. Next we have long jump. This is my favorite mechanic in the game. It just feels extremely fluid, long jumping off buildings, and you kind of feel like floaty while doing it, and that's very good. Yes. This mechanic, do not nerf it. This is a beautiful mechanic. Now we're getting into the more advanced type of things. Even though these aren't really hard to do, they're technically harder to do than the other ones. we have drop down boost. Now before the movement balancing, I would honestly have this as A or S, but can't really do it anymore. So it's kind of just like not really a thing. Same with slide boosting. This mechanic was just nerfed, and I get that it was kind of a glitch and also didn't really count for world records and time trials, which I agree with, but it's also just not like viable. This could have been a way to implementing sliding into a type of chain feature, but I don't know. Like maybe if you completed a ledge chain, you could get one slide boost chain, but then you would have to go back to a ledge. I don't know. I just feel like that could have been implemented as an actual mechanic to help out speedrunning as well. But this just gets F because right now it just sucks. Now we have Pogo, another nerf mechanic. You can kind of see the trend with upward momentum moves just kind of getting nerfed. I believe this was also a glitch, and again this was also nerfed, so I would just have it here. Next up is Orca. I've never really done this that much. I've probably done it like twice. It's pretty useful for clearing large gaps. That's a plus. I would have it at A and maybe even S, but comes to speedrunning, again, chaining was nerfed. Not chaining itself, but starting a chain with less momentum was nerfed, which also just hurts time trials. And this kind of makes Orca like worse, so I would have it at B, but it's still pretty fun to do. Next we have Wumpy. Now, Wumpy as a mechanic, honestly, I would put at the very top of S. Actually, I'd put it below After Boost because you kind of need it to work, and long jump as well. But this would also be S. But this mechanic right now, it sucks. I felt as though Wumpy was kind of too overpowered, but the way that they implemented the nerf kind of just removed it as a viable option. So I would move this down like to C. It's still good. It's not a D because you can still use it in time trial runs, but the mechanic itself just kind of sucks. I don't know. I feel as though the nerf could have been done better. I mean, I don't agree with killing it off, but I do think that at least coiling it should get you near what it used to be. Not exactly, but near at least. Because coiling just adds another element to making it kind of harder, even though it's already not that hard to do. Mechanic is kind of like dog water. Actually, yeah, because it's still viable in time trial runs. This mechanic would be C. It's still viable in time trial runs, so I can't bring it down to D. This is my tier list. I'll actually just modify some of these a bit, and I'll cut to that. This is my finished tier list of all the gearless moves, and yeah. I made this template not only for this video, but you can actually access it in the description. Also, I would like to see your opinions in the comments as well, where you would put certain things and what you disagree and agree with on my tier list. But that's pretty much it. Thank you all for supporting me, and y'all just kind of made making content like more fun. But yeah, that's about it. See ya.